right, welcome everyone. Sorry about the technical difficulties. First of all, I want to thank Christian and Brian and Oscar that are here. You guys want to throw your faces in the screen for a minute so everybody can see you? Everybody come say hi. You can't do anything without them, believe me. So thank you. I appreciate all your help, you guys. All right, welcome tonight. I'm really excited about tonight. I've been looking forward to this. We did this once before a number of months ago, but I've got my good friends back. I'll introduce them in a second. But really excited tonight. We have a full room here. We've got tons of people online. So this is going to be a great subject here tonight. So we've got Tony Lopez, tax CPA specialist extraordinaire. So he'll be speaking. Yes, and Marty Arnell, my estate planning CPA, estate planning extraordinaire as well. So we'll let them speak in a minute here. But again, thank you everybody for coming. Anybody that's online, if you have a question during the round here, put your questions in chat. We have Oscar and Christian and Brian monitoring it. So we'll get to your questions probably at the end. Everybody in the room, if you can write your questions on the cards we put on the table there, and then hand those in to Brian or Christian, and we'll get to those questions later. Okay, before I jump in, we do have more seminars coming. July 8th is my next one. That's on income in retirement. So if you want to be interested in that, you can go sign up online. California Wealth Advisors, go sign up for that. Then we have our summer party for all of our fun. Yeah, it's always very fun. So golf themed this year. That's in July as well. And then July 24th, we have Ada and Lori coming from Millgreen, who's one of my favorite real estate programs. So lots of good seminars coming up. You can sign up for all of those online. And then all of you that are traveling, that are clients of mine, don't forget we have the California Wealth Advisors flag. Take these with you, put it in your suitcase. See, it folds up really easy. I just took it with me to Sweden. And it was really fun. Took a bunch of pictures of me there with, I had some clients with me too. So it was really fun. So that's a good thing to do too. Okay, with that, we'll go back to our slides. So jump into that. Christian's doing a great job. Thank you, Christian. Okay, I think I will speak first, and then I'll have Marty speak, and then Tony, and then again, questions at the end. So really excited about tonight. These are subjects here tonight that everyone needs in some way, shape, or form, in my view. You need investment help, you need estate planning help, or you need help with your taxes. I think we all experience that. So we have wonderful specialists here with us tonight to talk about that. So before I let them speak, many of you are new to me, and I do have a radio show, KNX 1070 on AM on Saturday mornings. That plays. It goes all over Southern California. So those of you that are new to me, welcome. My radio show is wonderful. I love it. Any radio show, previous radio shows, and I think I have 4.5 radio shows on there now, 4.5 years of radio shows on there now, are all on my website. So you can always go to my website and listen to those. Okay, my book, The Great Retirement Mystery, How to Avoid the 6 Biggest Blunders. I want everyone avoiding blunders, and that's true for everyone, no matter how old you are. So I think my book is very helpful for a lot of folks as well. Okay, before I introduce Marty, I want to go over investing a little bit. I want everyone to have an investment plan that's created specifically for you. It's not cookie cutter. It's not portfolio A, B, or C. I want you to actually have a portfolio that's designed for you, because everybody that talks with us needs something different. Some people need income. Some people want legacy passing. Some people need tax advice, which Tony will talk about tonight. Some people need estate planning help, which is what Marty will talk about tonight. So I want to have a plan that's specifically designed for you. So make sure you start there in your investment portfolio. The way we do that here at California Wealth Advisors is through diversification, looking at the markets, alternative investments, as well as safe investments. So this is our master proprietary process. I came up with this years ago for people to really understand how investing works, because not everything is just stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. That's a part of a portfolio, but not everything. So M is the market. It's red for a reason. It goes up and down. I don't really ever know what the value will be there. So if you're closer to retirement or in retirement, a lot of times my clients just don't want to have that kind of risk. Now, if you're younger and you're looking for growth, it can be great. And I do like the liquidity it provides as well. So the M is great as far as part of your portfolio. Again, this is creating your plan specific to you. We also look at alternative investments. Those are real estate programs, private placements, oil and gas programs, tax write-off programs. Again, Tony will talk a little bit about that as well. So looking at things that are alternative to the stock market is very helpful for a lot of folks as well. So again, we're going to have some more seminars later on in July on some of the real estate programs we have. So by all means, if you're interested in those, check our website and we'll get you signed up for that. Then we look at the safe section. That's when you say, hey, Kelly, I just don't want to take any risk at all. Or maybe I want to have income guaranteed for my life, maybe my wife's life as well. So when you want that, we go to the safe section. Those are insured products backed by insurance companies. So those don't go up and down with the stock market, for instance, and they're different than certainly real estate. So when we look at the safe section, a lot of times that does bring peace of mind to a lot of folks because they're not worried about the market and they're not worried about real estate. They're not worried about anything. They've got guarantees, again, backed by insurance companies. So when I do all three of these sections, it does tend to bring peace of mind and comfort to clients because we're not just putting them in portfolio A, B, or C. And this, I will say, this makes us very different than other advisory firms because most advisory firms are just going to put you in M. They're going to put you in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. And there's certainly nothing wrong with any of that, but there's certainly a wider array of things available to you. So if that's of interest to you, give us a call. We'd love to talk with you about it and make a good portfolio for you. I want to go over just real briefly my private client process because that's where I bring Tony and Marty in, because my private client process really looks at your entire financial house. And a lot of times when I'm doing seminars just by myself, I'll draw this for folks. But since we have these wonderful speakers, I don't want to take too much time away from them. So I'm just going to show you the diagram here. So the investment planning, that's really us working on your investment portfolio, just what I said there, the master proprietary process. The risk management side, that's where I bring Tony in for taxes. Are you paying too much in taxes? Because I think that's a risk in your overall financial house. If you're paying too much in taxes, and probably Tony would agree with me here, and you write a check to the federal government, you're probably not going to get that back. That's probably gone. So let's make sure if you're selling a business, you're selling real estate, you're doing a 1031 exchange, whatever you're doing tax-wise, that we're actually looking at that and maybe lowering the tax burden you might have there. With risk, we also look at when you're taking Social Security, your insurances that you have as well. Lots of different things are at risk in your overall financial house. So we're going to address that there. Then, of course, estate planning. That's where Marty comes in. So estate planning is looking at your, well, first of all, do you have a trust? Because sometimes people come to me and even their high net worth folks, they don't have a trust. Maybe they have a will, which Marty will talk more about why that's not a great idea. But you need to have powers of attorneys. You need to have medical directives as well. So make sure you have all these correct documents. And by all means, I highly recommend talking with Marty. Then we put it all together here in our family office, our vault, we call that as well, where we put all of your important documents in one place. So your beneficiaries, your heirs, your children are going to know where to go. If something should happen to you, they know they can call us and they can get the appropriate documents that are needed for you. And a lot of times we do put passports in there, driver's licenses, trust deeds even for your houses, things like that. So make sure that you've got all of your documents in one place so your heirs will know where to go if they ever need it. Okay, that's how I use the private client process and why I bring in Marty and Tony. So let's have Marty take over from here. So Marty, here you can flip. Okay. It's that one if you need to go to the next slide.
Perfect. Before I start, I'm going to give a shout out to my future son-in-law. We got great news from him today. He got a nice.
Congratulations.
So we're very proud of you, Owen. With that said, I'm an estate planning attorney. I do not do financial planning. That's Kelly's job. I'm good at what I do. Don't ask me to give financial advice. Trust me. You don't want that. That's why we have Kelly. Don't ask me for tax. That's why we have to do the tax. That's not my specialty. Mine is estate planning. Okay. So let's talk about some of the, whoops, wrong way.
Before you jump in, I forgot to say thank you to Karen. Marty's wife is here and she's been fabulous. She's brought us food and she's taking pictures. So thank you, Karen. Appreciate you being here.
She's not only my wife, she's my office manager. She's the glue of the family and she's the glue of the office. Without her, I would be in deep trouble. Okay. Honestly, I probably don't say that enough. I know a lot of you were here last time and we talked about the difference between a will and a trust. I'm going to go over it again. I know it seems like, okay, I heard it once, but I don't,
Good.
yeah, I think you need to hear it over and over because I really need to drive home these differences. Because I really think that's what people need to know so they know how to properly plan. So let's kind of talk about real quickly some of the things between difference between a will and a trust. A will and a trust are similar in that they do allow us to do post-mortem planning. I can do the same planning with a trust or a will on how to distribute your assets to your beneficiaries when you die. There's not really much difference on that part. They are both the same. One of the big differences between a will and a trust is, can you do disability planning? And with a will, you cannot do disability planning. One of the big mistakes people make is they think estate planning deals with death. It doesn't. It deals with disability. In fact, you're 7 to 8 times more likely to become disabled in a given year than you are to die. And if you don't properly do the planning for disability, you're going to find yourself in a lot of trouble. I'm dealing with a probate or a trust administration right now where dad died. Mom's still alive, but mom has dementia. She's been declared incompetent. Daughter is now having to handle all this stuff, but the trust that they had written does not cover what we need it to cover. So we are really having a hard time trying to get things handled because they didn't do the disability planning that should have been done. And that was even in a trust. So that's one of the problems with the trust act. The problem with a will is that a will does not take effect until you're dead. So that's why you can't do disability planning. Whereas a trust takes effect upon once you fund it. You can draft it, but once you fund it, you start putting your assets in the trust, then you have some disability planning if it's done correctly. Let's talk about the initial cost between the two. The reality is the cost between a will and a trust probably is not going to be that much different because we're doing a lot of the same planning, right? We're doing all of the same post-mortem planning, so there's not much work. Trust can be a little bit more money upfront because we're now adding in the disability planning as well, but it's not usually that significant if you're actually doing the same type of planning in both documents. Here's where the second big difference comes up between a will and a trust, and that is wills have to go through probate. Probate is a legal procedure in which assets are transferred from the dead to the living. It is a very, very expensive and time-consuming process. Now, I always tell clients, don't do your trust. Just please take my card, give my card to your kids, and let me handle the probate, okay? Here's why. I get paid by statutory fees on a probate. I get 4% of the first $100,000 of the estate. So that's $4,000 for the first 100,000, 3% for the second. So now we're up to $7,000 for a $200,000 estate, 2% for every 100,000 thereafter. And then after $1 million, I get 1% for every $100,000. Start doing the math, people. I love probates because also the reality is my paralegal does 98% of the work. Don't ask me how to fill out a probate form. That's my paralegal's job. She does it better than I do. I will literally call into court 3 times, probably, say anywhere from 15 to 20 words to the judge. The reason why I know is because I was so bored one day, I actually counted the words I spoke to the judge. Half the time you're just sitting there waiting to have your case called, but I get paid all this money. In addition to my fees, your executor, the person who's in charge of it, is going to get the same amount that I get. Well, let's make it worse. You got court fees. Trust me, they get their share too, right? Then you get the probate attorney, which is through the court, and you get the probate appraiser. All of that adds up. The $500,000 estate will cost you about $27,000 to probate in California. So again, don't do your trust. Just make sure I handle the probates, okay? So on the other side, when you do a trust, when you die, yes, there is a trust administration that has to be done. It is significantly less money. We usually do them on flat fees, and depending on it, it's anywhere from maybe 5 to 10 grand. You already start doing the numbers and you see it's much, much cheaper. So that you want to do the trust. And again, remember the trust also has the disability planning. So that's why you want the trust over the will. Okay. I'm being told I have to talk faster. So I'll do my best. All right, let's talk about some of the common mistakes in estate planning. This is the list I usually kind of give people, and I can go over it real quick, but I was talking to Kelly just before we started, and I'll tell you what the biggest mistake, there's a couple big mistakes I really see people make. One is, I'm just gonna say it's called arrogance. Okay? And why is arrogance a mistake? Most of the people who come see me are fairly successful people. They've done well. They've done well in their field of endeavor. They've saved money. And because of that, they think they know everything. Okay? You don't. It doesn't mean you're not smart to ask for help. If I need help with taxes, I go to the tax man. If I need help with financial planning, I go to the financial planner. I don't do that, and I'm a very successful attorney. Even in the practice of law, there are a lot of areas that I won't touch because I don't do it on a regular basis. Doesn't mean I don't know how to do it. It's just I don't do it on a regular basis. I know my own limitations. Unfortunately, a lot of people think because they're successful in one area, they know more than they do. And there's nothing wrong with admitting, hey, I need a little help because there's a lot that goes on that people don't know about. A quick story. I did before I became an estate planning attorney, I was a litigator. And one of my mentors, I eventually did his trust for him. And I did it on a Friday. We signed everything. I sent them home to read it, got questions, gave me a call. First thing Monday morning, 8:30, I get a phone call. Marty, what's this in here? What's this in here for? And this, by the way, this is a very successful attorney. And I'm like, well, this is why this is in here. This is why this is in here. He goes, really? I said, yeah, this is why it's in there. He says, this really comes up? And I said, yes, this is what comes up. And he's like, I never knew that. And this is a guy who was very, very successful. This is one of my mentors, right? So know your limitations. Don't be embarrassed if you don't know everything. We're not expected to know everything. Even within the realm of estate planning, I don't know everything. I know a lot. There are some people who know. One of my mentors in estate planning, he knows nothing about special needs or supplemental needs trust. He's always calling me. There are areas that he knows that I call him and ask him about it. We all can't know everything, so don't let our arrogance get in the way. Second biggest mistake that I think people make, and that is being cheap. Okay? You get what you pay for. I love when I get that phone call. How much is it going to cost to do my estate plan? Well, my answer is always, it depends, because I don't know what I'm doing for you. It's the assumption that all trusts are the same and are equal. They are not. Just like buying a car. If you were to call up the car dealership and say, how much is it going to cost me to buy a car? They're going to say, what? What do you want? Do you want a Ford Pinto? I can give you that real cheap and it's probably going to blow up on you. Or do you want a Ferrari? Okay. Or somewhere in between. Well, estate plans are kind of that way as well. The Pinto is the online trust that you're going to get. I guarantee you 90% of the time they're going to blow up in your face. Now, I know I'm going to get calls, or they're going to people always come up to me when I do this lecture and say this, well, my mom had one or my dad had one and we didn't have any problems. Great. God bless. I'm happy for you. I really am. The problem is when you have a problem and now you're hiring me to clean up the mess, that's when we wish we had the trust that we have. My trusts are about anywhere from 70 to 80 pages long. Why? Because I definitely put more things in there than most people will ever need. But the reality is, if it comes up and we need it, we're glad we have it there. If I don't need it, okay, I wasted a few extra lines and some ink. Not that big a deal. Whereas if you go do it online thinking you're going to get the best deal, you're not. You're going to pay in the end, usually, most of the time. Kelly and I were kind of talking about this as well. It kind of amazes us sometimes. You guys work so hard to earn this money. You make these investments. You go to people who can help you with the taxes, who can help you with the financial planning, and then they're like, well, I'm just gonna go online and do my trust. Why? It just doesn't make sense, okay? And I think those two things really kind of go into some of the other mistakes I have listed here. And one is, can you create your own estate plan? Can you do it? Yes. Is it going to achieve your goals? Maybe, probably not. Okay. So many times I'm dealing with people with very large estates, very successful people. They did their trust online and it's a mess. I'm now having to clean it up. They're taking non-taxable estates, making them taxable estates by having a bypass trust in them. Okay. As a couple, if you're less than $24 million, let's not worry too much about bypass trust unless you're a second marriage. We might want to worry a little bit because we don't know what's going to happen, but that's a whole nother stuff. But the reality is, even if you're at $12 million per couple, you probably don't need a bypass trust. And so many people have them, paying extra money. Also, a lot of it is the arrogance, I think, also comes through is people thinking that all trusts are the same, and it's just boilerplate. Okay. We all own cars here, right? Okay. All those cars came with steering wheels. They all have brakes on them, gas pedals, right? Okay. Well, Ford Pinto had all of those. Do you want a Ford Pinto? It's a car. It'll get you from A to B. Or would you rather have a nicer car with all the built-in safety? A trust is very much the same way. They all have certain elements to them, but some of those elements are different. Do they have the added protections in there to make sure that you are safe, that your beneficiaries are safe? Am I leaving money to a child who's under age 18 or at age 18? Do we want to leave them $1 million? No. Okay. My daughters, who I would have, are very smart. I got one works big law. The other one runs a dance department. They're both amazing individuals. The reality is, even at age 18, I wasn't going to leave them any money. It was going to be left in trust. Let's have those protections. Okay. Boilerplate. I love that term because I always hear it's just boilerplate. Again, not all boilerplate's the same. And where does boilerplate come from? Statutory requirements. Okay. That means the statute says we have to have certain language in there. In fact, the California HIPAA release, the font size is even designated by the legislation because it has to be a certain size so people can read them. We were talking earlier about lawsuits. Boilerplate comes from lawsuits. There was a case that came down that came up with some decision that is now incorporated into our trust. It's also experience. The more experience the attorney has, they will use a lot more in their trust because we know how to deal with situations. When you start off as an estate planning attorney, you don't know anything. You write all these trusts based on what everyone tells you. It's not till later on life when you start doing the trust administrations where you realize this really doesn't work or this works. And that's how we adjust what's in our trust. And my boilerplate is going to be very different than the next person's. It's based on experience. Okay. Number 5, real quick. I know I'm going to run out of time. 5 and 6, I'm going to kind of take together. Placing your kids on title. Please don't do that. Do not put your kids on title without first talking to me or another experienced estate planning attorney. You are going to create problems. It could be as simple as losing step up in basis. It could be triggering a property tax reassessment. Okay. Or it could be that you end up having a strange man living in your house. Okay. Some of you have heard this story before. I had a client that came to me. They came to me late. Mom had put son on title of their property. And they did that because son and daughter-in-law came to live with them. They were taking care of mom and dad. All the brothers and sisters were really cool with this. They didn't care because a brother and sister-in-law were taking care of mom and dad. Dad dies. They continue to take care of mom. Daughter-in-law decides, you know what? We've been taking care of your mom so long. My dad needs help. We're going to move him into our house. Mom calls me up and says, what can I do? And I said, as I told you before, you put your kid on title. Like, you should have taken him off. You didn't want to do it. You have nothing you can do about it. So she literally had a strange man living in her house.
Oh my.
Okay. please fund your trust. Funding is just nothing more than the fancy word of saying retitle your assets in the name of the trust. If you fail to put an asset in your trust, guess what? We get to go through probate. Marty gets to make more money.
I'll add here, I had a client years ago that brought me his trust, but nothing was signed. It was not signed, it was not dated. I said, you do realize this trust is not valid. So we had him sign it and make sure it was valid from that point. But people do that. I'm amazed.
It happens more than you know, or you would think. I've had that many times where people have not signed the documents. Kind of goes with the funding. It's not completed till it's signed and you put the assets in the trust. You have to call Kelly up and say, Kelly, I was a good boy and girl. I did my trust. Can you put my assets in the trust for me? She knows what to do. Okay, I don't have to worry about it. When I know when Kelly sends a client, I'm like, this is a piece of cake as far as the assets she's handling. I just send her over a few documents and I know it's done. I don't have to worry about it, right? That's the advantages of working with somebody who's a part of the team as well. Please look at your trusts on a regular basis. I tell clients you should look at your trust once a year. Okay. I tell my clients, call me once a year. Tell me what's going on with your life. Even if it's just to say hello, I'm fine with that. I like that. Okay. But there are changes that are coming down in the tax law. We don't know what the estate tax exemption is going to be. It's that one's anyone's guess at this point. But if you don't look at that on a regular basis, you're going to have problems. The one trust administration I was talking about earlier where dad died, mom has dementia. Dad was actually going to come to me. They finally daughter got dad finally to say he would come to me, but he died before he did. Yeah. I could have cleaned up 90% of the problems we have had they have looked at that trust and had it reviewed. Don't just stick it in a drawer and forget about it. It is not wine.
Well, let's give you the good example here because I just referred a client, high net worth guy, to Marty, and I was asking him, well, when's the last time you did your trust? He said 1993. I said, well, you hadn't been married yet, you hadn't had any kids yet, you hadn't been divorced yet. Now, all these years later, do you think this trust is really valid? So really, yes, you do need to review your trust regularly.
Yeah. And that is a problem because people don't look at it, and it eventually, again, I think that's being cheap or penny wise, dollar foolish, right? Spend the time, spend the effort, get it done right, and you won't be sorry. If you don't, I promise you, you're just going to pay me later. And as much as I like that, I don't like it either. Okay, I'd rather see you do things right from the onset and make sure you're covered. I think I hit all of them as quickly as I can. I'm going to pass this on. And
okay, perfect. All right, we'll have questions for Marty at the end here. All right, so now we're going to have Tony speak. Oops, there's Marty's information. We do have this actually. You guys can take a picture with your phone or whatever that's online or at home. But we do have Marty's information. I give out his cards all the time. So by all means, we have his data. All right, Tony. So here's his partners here, and we have Richard in the room too. Over here looking. The lovely Emma's not here this evening. She's in Paris, I guess.
She is in Paris.
So Tony is fantastic. Love referring clients to him, especially people that are more forward looking in taxes wise. They're concerned about paying too much in taxes. So with that, I'll let you have it, Tony.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for having us here.
That one's down.
That one's down. Okay. Thank you very much for having us here, having me here. You know, it was a great time last time, and you know, looking forward to meeting and talking and answering questions for you guys today as well, and so forth. That is a picture of the team there. You know, there's a bunch of other people too as well, but like you said, Richard's here with me, and Emma is enjoying vacation right now. There's just a picture of me. We can kind of go through that. We don't need to. So Richard, Emma, and I actually all worked together at a larger firm for quite some time and known each other. And about going on 3.5 years now ago, we decided that we wanted to get back to helping clients and having the time and spending time with clients rather than just sitting in the office and dealing with problems and never really focusing on the client. So we decided to leave and start our own firm that really focused on client needs, client interaction, and planning, because without tax planning, you're really, as it is, we're finishing 2024 returns right now. We're halfway through 2025, and some people are, we still got another 3-4 months of tax returns that we'll prepare. And the further we go into the no one likes dealing with taxes, and they're like, well, I don't remember what I did, or I don't know, here's whatever documents you can come up with, and just file something and we'll get through it and so forth. Because, first of all, people don't like doing taxes. They don't want to hear about it. They don't want to hear that they owe money, and so forth. And then when you don't have to file for 9-10 months afterwards, it's like, this is as much as I have, taken and see what you can do with it and so forth. So, we really try to be ahead of the game, planning, thinking a year before, where it's like, hey, we already have your documents. We know what you're doing. We know what the year is going to look like. And, we're planning for retirement. We're planning for the sale of a company. We're planning for, purchasing of rental properties, if that's what you want to do. Or, our big thing right now, people moving out of California. I can't afford to live here and retire here. I want to live in a tax-free state, or even more so now, I want to live in Mexico. I want to live in Europe. I want to, I don't want to be in the US anymore. How do I get out? How do I still have access to my money? How do I, what's it going to cost me to go? Is it going to be cheaper or not? What kind of tax problems am I looking at by doing that? That is a big part of our consulting that we do now, because in the old days, people's like, oh, we're just going to use a Nevada address and we're going to pretend like we're there. That doesn't work. If you're going to move out of California, you really got to move out of California. California, for the first time, I think it was 3 years ago, actually started seeing decline in population for the first time. And from a tax perspective, they realize how much that hurts and how much they're losing in tax dollars. So they started coming after people who said they were moving out of California, but didn't really move out of California. And they literally come now and they will audit your credit card bills to see if you're actually where you're spending money. They don't look at, did you register in another state? Do you have a doctor in another state? Is your driver's license in another state? They know you're going to do that stuff. That's the easy stuff. They want to know, where are you having dinner every night? How are you paying for that dinner? And it's like, oh, you had dinner every night this week in California. How are you a Nevada resident or a Tennessee resident or a Wyoming resident when you're spending money only in California every day? So where it used to be really, easier to kind of move out of the state and get out of high income taxes for California, it's something that really takes a lot of effort now to make sure that you do it right. So that's a tax strategy that, not even a strategy, but planning for retirement. For a lot of people, California isn't the easiest place to retire anymore because of how expensive it is. So there's a lot of tax planning and strategy that we've been doing in that realm there too. And then just overall, people selling their companies or trying to understand, a lot of work that we're doing now is businesses that the owners are getting older. The kids don't want to follow in mom or dad's footsteps and follow in the company. And they're like, how do I either sell my company or keep my company? I have a great employees who basically run it for me, and I get to cash a check every month and it's perfect. How do I keep those employees so they can continue to run the company in my old age because I'm not ready to sell my company? And we're doing valuations so that we can give their key employees maybe 3, 4, 5% of the company, because now they're hooked. Now they're part of the company. They see that it's like, hey, I might be able to go make somewhere over there, but now I'm part of it because I have an ownership stake in it. And the owner believes in me, and we're going to, I'm part of this now. And maybe I can buy it in the future or whatever, but it allows the family to continue the family business they're doing, even in, as they're growing older and maybe wanting to step back a little bit and so forth, when, junior's not ready to take it over or has no interest in taking it over and so forth. So those are a lot of tax things. And obviously there's your, the basic tax return type stuff that we do, but, like Marty said, with trust, tax returns, it's the same thing. We'll get the call, how much is it to do a tax return? It's like, I couldn't tell you, you know, I was like, well, what do you have? What does it take? What do you, you know, so forth. Every return is different. Yes, it's the same form that everybody uses in the nation. It's a Form 1040 for an individual. A corporate has its own form, but every single one of them is different. So it's all based on the assets that you have, you know, and the planning that we do for you and so forth. So it is a very tax returns, just like trust, just like investments, are very personal. And if you don't have a team that is personal with you and that understands you, that talks to you and asks you questions, you have the wrong team. Because those, you know, trust are far too important to not be able to ask your attorney questions and for them to know you so that they can fill the trust out correctly. Investments, if Kelly doesn't know who you are so that she can pick the right investments for you, then that doesn't work for you. And that's why Kelly is so great, because she knows every one of her clients. She takes the time with every one of her clients, and she knows and she makes them feel safe. It's like, we, you know, she has you in the right investments and so forth. And that's why we love working with her. Same thing for us. We're all about phone calls. There's a couple of clients I have in here that are here.
Yeah.
When they call, we answer and we talk to them. We answer the questions that they want, and we help them through the steps of getting through returns and making it easy so that you can get your returns done. And that we, you know, the last thing we want to do is pay Uncle Sam. You know, everyone has to pay their fair share, but if we can plan it out and strategize or maybe defer tax for years, then we want to try to do that the best we can and so forth. And there's, you know, Marty alluded to it. There are huge changes coming. And you know, I couldn't tell you what they are because it changes every day. I stopped reading because it's just like every day there's something different. You know, oh,
Every day,
you know,
every hour, it seems like
it's
anymore.
unbelievable right now how often things are changing with the tax law and to see what it's going to be. Years ago, the tax law didn't change that much. You know, it was pretty much the same thing. There was a few add-ons here or there. The last 10 years have been tremendous in the tax industry. We have the largest group of retired CPAs and accountants because of the amount of changes in the tax law. They just don't want to do it anymore. They're like, it's just getting too complicated. I'd rather get out and be done because it's just, I can't keep up anymore. So there are a lot of changes that are coming down the pipe that have changed over the last few years. And you know, your team has to be on top of those things so that they understand how it affects everyone. Because the changes that are coming are not for just the super wealthy. They're not just for the big corporations. They affect everybody. You know, if you have a rental property, if you have, you know, everyone's going to die at some point in the state. What's the estate dollar amount? Is it going to be 12 million? It's going to be 24 million? Are they going to go back down to, you know, 5 million? You know, what's it going to be and so forth? That's a huge, you know, huge amount. You know, do you want to leave your kids with some super huge tax burden, or, you know, are you going to plan it out and know that, hey, in 5 years, the, you know, the estate amount's going to dip back down and everything's going to change, and we have to plan for that and understand that and so forth. So these are all tax planning and strategy things that you just have to be working with a team that is staying up to date and knows you and knows what's happening. I'm retiring next year. I'm, you know, doing this, or we just had kids, or we got
You're
married.
not retiring.
I'm not retiring next year.
You should have seen
I'm
their
trying.
faces. Their face, yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
trying, but no,
About
not that close. Not that close. Yeah, I still got a kid in college, so I can't retire.
You're not retiring
Yeah,
anytime soon.
so that's kind of us, you know, like I said, you know, Richard's here with me. Emma is we're very much, you know, we love to meet with clients. We love to understand our clients' needs and understanding and make everything based on those goals and work with a team that does the same. And that's why, you know, when I got introduced to Kelly, it was such an easy, just, you know, team that we came together so easily, because you could tell in the first 2 minutes of talking to her that she cared about every single one of her clients, and she knew every one of her clients. That is exactly how I hope I come off when I sit and talk about my clients, because I go to dinner with my clients. I go to soccer games. I go to baseball games with them. I love to see them. I was talking to someone in the back. I'm going to Utah to do a fishing trip, and I'm staying for a few extra days to meet, you know, 2 or 3 other clients that are in Utah just because I'm there and I want to, make sure that I spend the time with them, because typically it's just all on the phone, so it's those type of relationships, and every time we get a client, one of the biggest things is I'm only allowed to talk to them once a year, or I'm only allowed to send them an envelope, and then they'll send me a return and a bill and I'm done. And I'm like, that's not an accountant. That's not a CPA. That's not, you have a tax preparer who probably is doing it wrong because they don't even know who you are, so please, feel free to call us, or just make sure you have a team that understands you, so that you're making sure that you're planning for your tax, strategies correctly and so forth. And I think
Okay.
that's me.
Okay.
Can I echo something that you said?
Yeah.
Sure.
The client relationship is so important to what all of us do. If we don't take the time to meet with you and find out about you, we can't do what we need to do. I sit there, people think I just talk and ask a lot of questions because I'm nosy. I'm not. I'm actually figuring out, what is the family dynamic? What do I have to worry about? You're doing the same thing. Kelly's doing the same thing. She's assessing, are they okay with risk, or are they afraid of risk? Where can I put them? What's going to work best for them? Because it's not always just how much money she makes you, how much money he saves you, how much I pass on to your kids. It's, are you comfortable with what we did? And without those relationships, it doesn't matter. So there are a lot of CPAs, financial planners. There's a lot of attorneys out there that are probably cheaper than what all of us charge. But I will guarantee you, those aren't taking the time to get to know who you are and find out what really, really matters to you, because they can't. Because if your rates are so low, you don't have time. You have to make it up in volume. And that kind of goes back to the statement I made earlier. Don't be cheap about this. Understand, yes, we may be a little bit more money. I know I'm a little bit more than some, not as much as others. But why? Because I don't want to have to take 150 clients every week. I want 1 or 2, 3, 4 good clients that I can work with, that I get to know, and I can, when you call me up, I know what's going on in your life. I get tears when I hear, you know what, mom just died, because I'm the one who drafted mom and dad's trust for her.
Right.
So to me, I think that's one of the important things. I wanted to reemphasize that, because I think that gets lost in a lot of what we do. We're not just lawyers, we're not just accountants, we're not just financial planners.
Well, as I mentioned a little earlier, all of what you both just said makes us very different than other people in our industry, because we do take the time to get to know our clients. It's the tailor making. When you were speaking, the tailor making is huge to me personally with my clients, and obviously it is to you and Marty too.
Right.
And I love that. And so for me to be able to bring all three of us together for our clients and offer this to you, and incredibly valuable, I think, for the clients to see this, right?
Right.
Can I give a shout out? Just to say thank you, Tony, because first of all, Kelly, you are fabulous. And I'm really.
She's saying I'm fabulous, just in case you can't hear her. And Tony too.
Yes.
Thank you.
Because you answered my calls. You made me, no matter what time I called, you took care of me. You, through the whole tax process and everything else, was my first experience from the last meeting that I got to meet you. And I
Right.
just wanted to say thank you. And I learned so much from you, Marty, especially the title and everything else. So there's a lot of things I need to do, but I want to say thank you. This team is great, because the people you have in line, Kelly, followed through with making sure that everything got to Tony and everything else. Thank you, Christian. Okay.
Yes, thank you, thank you. We
Thank you.
appreciate that, Dana. Okay, we have some questions, so let's get some questions going here. So, question for me. Oh, here are more questions. Okay, what's your approach to risk management as clients age or as their financial goals shift? Okay, oh, and more questions. Okay, we got a lot of questions. All right, what's your approach to risk management as clients age or as their financial goals shift? Okay, as people get closer to retirement, they tend to not want to have a lot of risk in their portfolios. They want to have maybe some downside protection. Maybe they want to have income guaranteed for life. Maybe they're looking at legacy passing, again, and bringing Marty into some of this. Maybe they're selling their business and bring Tony in for that. So when people get closer to try, this is the forward thinking we all like to do. And I know Tony loves to do this as well. What's coming your way? Are you selling your business? Are you selling a piece of real estate? How can we avoid and delay some taxes there? How can we make your money work more for you, especially when you're getting closer to retirement? So I think as people age or get closer to retirement, we look at your overall financial house and really tailor make it to suit whatever it is you're trying to do from that point forward. Okay, Tony, a question
Yeah.
for you. What are some underutilized tax strategies that affluent individuals often overlook?
This one's a little bit of a hard one, but because, like I said, everybody is different. But I think, some of the stuff that kind of gets missed are usually a lot of the carryovers that we have from, real estate passive loss carry forwards and so forth. I think that, it's important when you switch accountants or things happen and so forth that, like I said, all your kind of baggage comes with you. If you've had a retirement, not a retirement, if you've had a rental for quite some time, and maybe there was years that you didn't make so much money and so forth, there could be a lot of loss carry forwards that were carrying on your return that you want to make sure, get carried over from year to year so that they're used, because when you decide to sell that all comes back to you and you get to take advantage of all that stuff. So there's a lot of planning to be done, which isn't just based on what's happening today or this year or so forth, but what's happened in the past too. And I think a lot of people, when they're calculating numbers or trying to figure it out, they forget about all the carryovers and stuff that they've had in the past and so forth.
Yeah, that's a good point. So a lot of the tax strategies I look at
Yeah.
is opportunity zones. I look at tax write-off programs that we offer.
Yeah.
Even certain kind of trust you can set up to put your assets in to avoid and delay taxes there too. So,
Absolutely.
so we work together with tax strategies with that. So I think that's a great question. Okay, Marty, for you.
How do we do this one? I think that's an interesting one.
Okay, do you have a checklist of what to look for in a well-designed trust?
No.
Okay, next question.
She won't stop there.
And the reason why is every trust and every individual is an individual. They're different. I would have to have so many different checklists. Are you married? Are you single? Do you have children? Do you have adult children? Do you have small children? Do you have children with special needs, supplemental needs? Is it your first marriage? Is it your second marriage? Is it your third marriage? Do you have his kids, her kids, and our kids, or any combination thereof? So the answer to that is no. I think the better answer to that is talk to an experienced estate planning attorney, such as myself, who will sit down with you, talk with you, find out what's going on, what you really need, and then we can look at what you have and say, does this meet your goals? If it meets your goals, great. Nothing needs to be done. And I have had people come in with trust. I look at them and I'm like, no, this meets what your goal. I mean, I may quibble a few things here and there, but overall, if it meets their goals, we're not going to have them redo it.
Right.
There's other times people come in and I'm like, holy, this is a real problem and we really need to clean this up. So no, I don't have a checklist. I wish I could have one, but I just don't think that it's that practical because everyone is so different. Every situation is so individual. It's the reason why my initial meetings we schedule them for about an hour. And usually at about an hour and 45 minutes, my office manager wife is telling me to speed up. But because I got people waiting for me. But it just takes time to really find out what's going on. And then we see what you have actually meets with what you need.
I think this is a great question for all of us.
Okay.
You kind of just answered it. I'll start though. What is the initial meeting like with me, with Tony, with Marty? So the initial meeting, because a lot of people online here and in the room haven't met with us necessarily. So the first meeting with me, I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. What do you have? What are you trying to do? When are you going to retire? Like you say, there's not necessarily a checklist because every client that comes to us kind of goes down a different path. That's the tailor making we do. So the initial meeting, I like to have in person. I want to get to know you. I want you to get to know me too. I want to make sure I can bring to the table what you're looking for. So if you're a stock trader and you want to trade options and futures, I don't do that. I do planning. I do investment planning. I do estate planning. I look at your entire financial house. I come up with plans for you. I diversify you correctly versus maybe what you have. Very rarely do I have somebody that come in, to Marty's point, and I look at it and I say, your portfolio is doing everything that you want it to do. Usually I don't see that, but if it does, I'm going to tell you. So that's usually the first meeting with us. I like it to be in person, either in my Anaheim office or my Santa Barbara office, and really get to know each other and find out what you have. And I'll ask you a lot of questions, and I want you to ask me questions too. So I think that's a great first meeting with us. But Tony, why don't you go over what you guys do?
Yeah, it kind of varies based on the different clients, but a lot of it is the same thing, whether it's a phone interview or meeting in person. What are your needs? What are your worries? What are your concerns? Taking a look at your returns and what have you done in the past and stuff. One of the things that we offer is anytime we take a client, we always ask for the prior year returns. At least 1 year, sometimes 2 years. So we'll review them. We'll see if there's anything that stands out where we think that you have a potential liability that might be sitting there, that something was done wrong before. That sometimes it may not be worth fixing, but at least that there was something that might be an error there that could come back to you, and make sure that you understand that and so forth. And really kind of understand what your future plans are, and understand what you have. And again, the same questions: when am I retiring? Hey, I have little Johnny who's probably looking at going to a really, really good school and it's going to cost me a fortune. Someone like Kelly is working with us and doing this, but at the same time, hey, what's the tax savings of a 529 plan? Is it better if grandma and grandpa pay for some of the school, or is it better if I pay for the school? Is it, do I take loans out? Do I not take loans out? Those types of things. And we can help with a lot of that in combination with, someone like Kelly and so forth. But there's a lot of, things like that. And it's just really understanding the individual, what the individual needs. A lot of times it's, hey, I'm starting a new company and I've never done this on my own. What do we do? How do we do it? We sit there. Richard and I had a meeting not too long ago with a gentleman who was starting a new business, and we thought we were going to go have a quick coffee and lunch with him for an hour. Richard ended up leaving because after about 3 hours, he had another appointment. I think I was there for another hour. We were there for 4 hours, just sitting, talking, and answering his questions. And it was just our initial meeting because he had a brand new company. He had never done it before. He was worried that he wasn't doing all the right things and so forth. And he wanted that time. So we're there to sit and wait and answer all the questions that he had to make sure that he felt comfortable and that he knew, what the next steps were and so forth. So
I will say almost every one of my first meetings starts with one question: why are you here?
He says it very nicely though.
I'll usually say, why are you here? And then I say, listen, I know the simple answer is you want to talk about your estate plan.
Right.
But why are you here? What brings you in today? Sometimes it's the husband sitting there doing this because she dragged me in here. She said I had to get this done. That tells me a lot about what I have to deal with, what's going on. It could be, you know what, my mom just died. I had to put her estate through probate. I don't want that to go to my kids. Or I just got diagnosed with cancer. I don't know what to do. That one question tells me so much of what I need to know about what your concerns are and what I need to do for you. And once you answer that question to me truthfully and honestly, everything falls into place. Yes, I have to deal with some tax issues, but that's easy for me. Same for you. Easy, right? The tax stuff, we do it all day long.
Yep.
But if I don't meet your goals and achieve what you want, I haven't helped you.
Mhm.
That's why that's my first question. And I think pretty much all of my first meeting starts with that very question. Why are you here? And I always get that look like, duh, yes. Yeah, I am not that bright. You need to explain to me so I know what to do.
I usually ask, how can I help you?
Yeah.
That's usually one of the questions. Okay, one more question for each one of us. We're
Okay.
close to an hour, so we'll keep it at an hour. Okay, question for me. How do you factor in inflation, taxes, and healthcare costs in long-term retirement projections? Okay, that goes back to what assets do you have? Are they doing what you want them to? If they're not taking care of inflation, if you don't have inflation hedges automatically built into your portfolio, in other words, is your portfolio growing by 2 to 3 or 4% a year? You don't have that factored in. We're going to look at how to do that. I do that through stocks. I do that through real estate because there's automatic rent increases in real estate that you own from the rents. I like that. Healthcare, that's a whole nother question, really. Sometimes people have life insurance. Some people have long-term care. Some people don't have either one of those. Some people have old policies. And if you have an old policy without long-term care, a lot of times we can do a new policy for you that adds long-term care to it. If you wouldn't qualify for long-term care because of your health, you just wouldn't qualify for it. We can do annuities these days that has long-term care attached to it. And I didn't even have that a year ago. That's the changing industry that we're in. It's making it better and better. So I look at long-term factors for folks, whether it's healthcare or inflation or increasing income that you might need as you age as well. So a lot of factors go into how I structure portfolios, but that's kind of an idea there. All right, Tony, last one for you.
Okay.
Are there proactive steps I can take now to prepare for possible future tax increases?
Yeah, well, it's that has a lot to do with, again, the assets that you have and kind of when we have to sell them and when we need the money from them and so forth. So there, again, a lot of this comes back to Kelly's part of it in it and so forth, but we would work together in, you have buckets, you have your retirement money, you have your assets, your home, maybe, investment properties that you have, maybe a business that you own and so forth. And it's like, okay, which bucket do we pull money from? What's the cheapest bucket? Do we start pulling money from our retirement early, or do we start pulling from, from the sale of, do we want to sell a rental property and take that money in and pay taxes on that? There's each individual case, you want to look at that and see where the use of the money is best used and so forth to defer as much tax as you can, because if we, I've had clients who, as they've aged, move their investments into, money market accounts or so forth and stayed away from, equities and so forth because they want to go easier. And they're like, okay, well, I'm going to start drawing on my retirement. I'm like, well, you have basically free money here.
Mhm.
Let's use the free money first instead of pulling from a retirement account that's taxable, and you can use that. Or sometimes we have enough where it's like, hey, we could take in $30,000, $40,000 of taxable without any cost to you because we have these other expenses on the side. Let's use that money, take the taxable money and defer using the free money till later, because guess what? It's not going to cost you anything. And now we still have that free money to use later when we need it and so forth. So it's really an individual case, but you want to look at the buckets of assets that you have and how they are taxed and when we want to include that, infer that tax.
So this is one thing I love about Tony and his firm. They're forward thinking. Most CPAs you talk to are just going to, here, pay this. Okay, pay this. They're not going to be, hey, what's coming your way? How can we avoid some taxes with that? So I love that you do that,
Thank you.
Tony. That's fabulous. Okay, Marty,
Yes.
how often should I update my will or estate documents, and what triggers a necessary update?
Well, one, because we're trust-based, so let's convert that to trust, because you don't want your estate plan to be will-based. It's trust-based estate plan. How often do you update it? It depends. I get lawyer answers all the time because it really does depend.
You're a true lawyer. Attorney.
Yeah, exactly. But the problem is it goes back to what I said earlier. You should look at it every year. I tell clients, look at it every year in hopes they look at it every 2-3 years. How often do I have to update it? Unfortunately, it really does depend. Did you just win the lottery? We need to have some talk, all of us, right? Did you have a grandchild? We might need to have a talk. Did a family member die? Did your son or daughter die? Do you hate your son-in-law or your daughter-in-law? Well, we may want to make some changes at that point, right?
Right.
So I think I like to tell my clients, if there's anything of significance going on in your life, call me. It's a 2-minute conversation a lot of times. Hey, don't worry about it. You're buying a rental property. Please make sure that escrow does the deed to put the property into the trust. It's a quick call. What? Huh? Just have your broker call me. I'll tell them what to do.
Mhm.
Right? We don't always have to update those all the time, but we do have to stay on top of them. Obviously, the big things in life: birth of a child, death of a spouse, major financial changes.
Health
Yeah,
issues.
those are a lot of times things are going to have to come up. Now, there's some ancillary documents: the Advanced Healthcare Directive, the Power of Attorney, and the HIPAA. I didn't really touch on those today. And by the way, anyone over age 18 has to have an Advanced Healthcare Directive, Power of Attorney, or a HIPAA. If not, you're playing with fire. Those need to be updated fairly regularly. Although there's no real statutory requirement, I will tell you, first of all, banks hate to deal with powers of attorney. Financial institutions hate to deal with powers of attorney. They will find any way to ignore them. And one thing we find is that if they're over 5 years old, forget it. They're not going to usually follow them. You need to update those more often and be aware of it. And unfortunately, with some of the state tax issues and some other tax issues that are coming down, I think everyone at the end of this year will know more. We'll probably need to definitely look at those, and there should be a lot of updating. One last thing, I want you all, when you go home tonight, pull your trust, see if you have what's called a bypass trust, or it'll be referred to as an AV trust a lot of times. If you have a bypass trust and you are under, I'm going to say $12 million as a couple, you need to get on the phone, either call me, call another estate planning attorney, and take a look at that, because you are creating the estate tax when you probably don't need one. Actually, it would be a capital gains tax.
Capital gains tax,
But, yeah, so just be aware of that. So I don't know if I answered the question, because it
Yeah,
really
yeah.
does depend on what's
Yeah.
going on, but call the attorney once a year. And if he charges you for that quick phone call, get another attorney. There's no reason for that quick phone call. All right.
Yeah.
And I answer my own phone most of the time. So
It's unusual.
Yeah.
yeah, which I actually like doing.
So again, I think the tailor making all three of us do is so important. So if you don't have that, we're here to offer it for you. By all means, I have their data. I'm going to just leave the screen big at this point, but thank you all for coming. I really appreciate everybody in the room, everybody online. Thank you so much. We did record this, so hopefully we'll get it up on the website, and we'll give it to these two as well, so they
Yep.
can have it for their clients as well. But thank you very much. I appreciate you two so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon. You want to take a picture?
I do.